still in the midst of a government shutdown. So if you rely on the USDA reports, what are you to do? This week's analyst has some advice. Plus, China's president says his country's economy could be in trouble. We'll see what that means for trade here at home. And Brazil was banking on a big soybean crop this season. So how's that looking? Darin Newsom is our analyst this week. We sat down on Wednesday to get his take on the markets and the lack of USDA reports.
I've always been of the belief that if we watch the markets, if we watch what's happening, if we watch the trends, if we watch the spreads, if we watch these things going on, we can tell, not only who's doing what, but what the fundamentals of a market actually are. We won't know, the exact bushels, but we don't know the exact bushels when we have USDA reports. So I have always argued that we don't need those things to create unnecessary volatility, to create, some people say opportunities, but I think it takes opportunities away and it distorts the market. Let's let the market speak for itself. Let's let it work without this undue influence, and it certainly seems to be working now during this shutdown.
And so from folks that you've talked to, where are they getting their info right now if they really do rely on those reports? Because we have a lot of viewers who really take a lot of stock into what those reports say. So what would you tell someone who is really missing those reports? Where can they get more information?
Well, first off, they can get better information from any comic book that they decide to buy. So they've got that going for them. If they're missing the reports, maybe after this show, they won't anymore because they'll realize that the information is out there. Now, if you want the hard data, the actual numbers, or what some people believe the numbers to be, there are private services out there that do this sort of thing. And they use more up-to-date technology than what USDA does. And there's no political game behind it. Now, some will say, well, yeah, but they're traders. That's where you have to differentiate. Are you getting your information from trading companies? Are you getting it just from private research companies? That's what the industry is moving towards, is these private research companies that provide this information. So it's out there. But if you don't actually need the numbers, and quite honestly, nobody really does, what we need to know is the market bullish or bearish? Is its long-term view bullish or bearish? And then all we got to do, it's very simple. You pull up a quote screen, you look at the spreads. If you've got a strong carry in the market, in other words, deferred contracts are higher priced than nearby, market's telling you right now they don't want it. They don't want your commodity up, in the short term. They're willing to pay you a large part of storage and interest to not sell it to them. They're bearish. If there's very little carry or an inverted market, they need it right now. Supply and demand.
All right.
It's very simple to read.
Excellent. All right, so got that out of our system.
Yes.
All right, moving on to trade, and could you tell our viewers how concerned you are with relations with China right now? Because we've talked about tariffs a lot on this show. Mm-hmm. Now I've been reading that over in China, the demand for soybeans is down. Mm-hmm. China's president even said that their economy is in serious danger. Mm-hmm. So what's happening over there?
Well, the trade has been a problem, and I think we've got 6 years in a row now where we've had the 6 largest production years here domestically for corn and soybeans. Mm-hmm. So we continue to increase our supplies. And while we're increasing our supplies, the one thing that we couldn't do was threaten demand. Well, we've done that. We didn't get into the TPP which was the Trans-Pacific Agreement, mm-hmm. Trans-Pacific Partnership. So we didn't get into that, and that included some of our largest corn customers. We got into a NAFTA fight with 2 of our largest trading companies, mm-hmm. Mexico and Canada, and so that was a potential threat to corn, and it could still turn out to be a potential threat to corn demand. And now, of course, we're in this quote-unquote trade war with mm-hmm. China, who is the world's largest soybean buyer. So they aren't buying U.S. soybeans right now, or if they are, they're shipping the bare minimum. They've seen their demand go down because of the swine illness that they've got going
mm-hmm.
on,
right.
that I don't know is being reported. I'm saying that. It's being reported, but I don't know that we know the full scope of it yet. Plus, they were waiting to see if Brazil was actually going to raise their next record crop. And mm-hmm. that seems to be the key to all of this. Is Brazil going to have that record crop that refills their storage? They could start shipping, they've been shipping at a record pace. Will that continue? We basically missed out on our 6-month window of making soybean shipments, and we didn't hardly move anything, particularly over the last 3 months. We may move a little bit now as South American supplies start to come back in during harvest. So we've got a very narrow window at this point, but I don't see our shipments picking up. I don't see demand for U.S. soybeans coming anywhere near what USDA's last projection was for exports of 1.9. We're not even going to be close to that. So, we look at the spreads, we look at the overall forward curve of the soybean market, we look at national average basis, and everything's telling us the same story. We have way too many soybeans on hand. We don't know how many, but we have way too many.
And it just seems like with all this inventory, where's all that going to go? It just seems it's going to be trouble for everybody.
Yeah, it is. It's going to be a concern. And we're coming up on planting of the next season. The debate is already out there. We're going to see more corn acres, more soybean. Is it going to be about the same with both of them coming in at about 90 million acres? That's very possible. We may lose a few acres to some spring wheat. We may, we were supposed to lose some acres to winter wheat, but because of the planting season being miserable weather-wise, we may not have seen all that happen. So, huge question mark right now. The bottom line is we have too much soybeans on hand, supplies. We have a large amount of corn, but not a burdensome amount. Again, if we look at our forward curves in the corn market, we look at the basis, it's not as burdensome in corn. So that means we've been moving corn, means we've still got good demand for corn. We just can't do anything to change that at this point, because we will get to a point where we have too much corn on hand as well.
And you mentioned the swine flu. Anything else internationally that you're looking at right now?
Well, we've got the latest round of weather markets from South America. So this is the huge question. Okay, demand is coming down in China because of the swine illness. We've got this thought that we were going to see 120 million metric tons plus in Brazil alone. Now that's being trimmed back to 118, maybe 116. How much it pulls back, how much it continues to be whittled down, still remains to be seen. The market isn't reflecting any concern at this point, but it could. If this drought continues, if they continue to have some dry weather problems, they're going to continue to pull their production down, and there's just not going to be as many soybeans from Brazil on the market. Will it change the overall market situation? As I said, right now, soybean situation is saying it won't, but it could down the road. So that's the next thing we really have to watch, is how much is this drought actually going to affect their harvest level.
You can get more from Darin at his website. That's DarinNewsom.com. And we'll have more with him next week and get his thoughts on cattle, pigs, and winter wheat.